Welcome, guys, to another episode of the Mindset Show. So today we have Mr. Kirk-Anthony Hamilton. This man here is one of the people I've been running down to get on the show. His company, Infiniti Partnership, he's going to speak about it more. And of course, Tech Beach. I'm one of their biggest fans. I was one of the first customers to buy a ticket there, might I say. So, Kirk, take over the floor. Introduce yourself and let us know, man.
Yeah, man. Well, firstly, thank you for all the energy and enthusiasm around our work, Melissa. Definitely happy to be on the show. My name is Kirk-Anthony Hamilton. I'm from Kingston, Jamaica. I am a architect turned entrepreneur. We have a couple things that we're involved in, but my overall or overarching brand and company is called Infiniti Partnership, which is a somewhat of a new age investment firm that focuses on being able to bridge the gap between opportunities in the Caribbean with resources from around the rest of the world. And to do so, the way that we have really started to get this going and where our major focus currently actually lies is we saw the need to build out an ecosystem in the Caribbean, a new age ecosystem when it comes to business. And our goal with that and thought process was that the Caribbean really needs to have more global counterparts participating in our economic development and activity. And so we took it upon ourselves to work towards bringing those people and organizations and institutions to the ground within a new narrative, right? A narrative that suggests that the Caribbean is not a place for solely, philanthropic and aid dollars, but it is a place for investment. It is a place that is filled with opportunity and, has trailblazers and people that can build successful businesses, but is missing a few pieces to the puzzle in some areas. And if we can fill those gaps, then, we can create massive success for the region. And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So basically, you guys are bridges, and bridges that we definitely need, linking us to diaspora, linking us to the valley. You guys have some really, really powerful networks and players across there that you guys are bringing to this here Tech Beach in Jamaica. So if you could highlight, because I know you have Michael Montano, Twitter, the senior director. That's to name a few. You have Monique from 500 Startups. Big companies, Google.
Yeah.
So if you could go into that, tell us more about Tech Beach this year. What are the aims? 10x scale. Tell us about it.
No problem. So one of the things that we pride ourselves on the most, and it's what our brands have garnered, garnered their profile from, is really our global network, which we build with significant purpose. So my business partner and I, in May of this year, spent a whole month in San Francisco. And my business partner is Kyle Maloney, who's Trinidadian as well, right? So just to share that we are already bridging the borders and really working towards building out a successful platform for the Caribbean. One of the things that has been surprising for a few folks is that Kyle and I work so closely together and so well together as a Jamaican and a Trini. But the beautiful thing I think about our generation of entrepreneurs is that we are, we're about making it.
Yeah,
exactly.
You're beyond that.
We're about making it, and we're looking well beyond the baggage of the past, which I don't think most people can even try to add up why some people don't get along with some people or anything like that. And we're looking well beyond that and just working together. As I told you, I'm actually sitting down right now in Barbados, where we will be hosting something very soon. And it's the same thing. I'm here with my Bayesian brothers and sisters just working together to make something happen. So
I wanna stop you there because this point is essential. We need to get over the silos. These irrelevant. We will be irrelevant in the grand sphere. We cannot pass the who cares test. So it is beautiful, and collaboration is the only way that this region is going to make it. So
definitely,
thank you for pioneering and highlighting that fact. And you look very comfortable, Barbados. And by the way, anyway, so go ahead.
I love it. I love Barbados. My family used to live here, and I am, this is like a second home to me. But, the same with Trinidad. I love Trinidad. I have great friends in Trinidad. When I'm in Trinidad, I feel like family. So,
Yep.
we're looking past those things. As I mentioned, we pride ourselves on our network. We've intentionally built what is an extremely powerful network of people who have bought into the narrative that I mentioned earlier, that, something different is possible in the Caribbean, and that what is really needed is a new ecosystem. And so we've set out to build that ecosystem. And, I tell everyone, you see that reflected in the summits that we host. So when you come to something like Tech Beach, you will meet power players from around the world, but in an extremely comfortable setting. So one of the things that sets Tech Beach apart from anything else, especially for people in the Caribbean, is this is our home turf. We have the advantage here, right? I pursue these networks all over the world, but one of the things, when you think about tech, the tech space especially, and the challenges that are being faced with diversity and all of these kind of things, there's a simple reality that people have to face, which is that when you hop on a plane and you go to New York, or you go to San Francisco, or any of these other markets, it is way more challenging to hold someone's attention, especially when you don't know if they are about you.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
One of the things that is certain when you participate in one of our summits is that these people have taken the time to hop on a plane to come to our market, which means one very simple thing. They are definitely about you. They're coming here to find opportunities to mix and mingle, to build relationships and to bridge gaps. And one of the things that I've found, most kind of impressive and just pleasing to us, I mean, we're very fortunate, is the enthusiasm that our conferences are being met with. When people walk away and they're writing me messages, up to this week, our very good friend Lisa from the New York Times, right?
Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah, Lisa wrote to me and was just saying, Kirk, I want to introduce you to someone in the conference space. I tell everybody when I go to conferences that Tech Beach is the best design conference that I've been to. And
it's family oriented, it's community oriented. You feel
exactly.
like you're part of that. I tell you, Lisa and I we met at Haiti Tech, and we were speaking so much and referencing Tech Beach. So you're right. You're absolutely correct.
And we appreciate that, right? To the bottom of my heart. And that's one of the things that I think, I would love to get more people throughout the region just understanding. What we're building is a family, right? A group of people who are for each other and doing things with each other's success in mind, right? Yep. And you mentioned it earlier. The world is much bigger than these small islands that we live in. But one of the things I also say to people all the time is, we have to get over the myth that suggests that the Caribbean is too small for wealth creation. It's not. The top 10 wealthiest nations in the world are not all the profile of the United States and China. In fact, they make up the minority. The large majority of the top 10 wealthiest nations have populations around 7 and 10 million people, right? So the idea that a nation cannot be, wealthy because of the amount of people that live in it is honestly absurd. Barbados is facing some challenges right now, but when my family lived in Barbados, for example, this island was thriving beyond belief. And I've been all over the world. I can tell you that what is here is well beyond. And so that's a big part of what we are trying to do.
You're trying to break a myth ultimately, because that was told to us, huh?
Yes.
Top down. This is this is all you can be,
Exactly. So and for some reason, we seemingly have increasingly bought into that.
Oh, absolutely.
And so what we are working to do is to, as you said, dispel that myth. And to, I like the way you put it. We're looking to shatter it in many ways, because I personally, what I usually say to Caribbean people and people who look on in the Caribbean and make these comments is, what is it that you expect us to do? Am I just to sit back and believe that there is no greater possibility for where I live, and therefore just succumb to the idea that my life should be mediocre? I don't agree with that. And so we have managed to, bridge a gap with a group of global players, sell them on the idea that there is more to this place than has met the eye and than what the media has sold you and such like that. And we've also managed to convince some big media entities to share that story.
I've seen it, Huffington Post, Loop. Who else again? You guys have in New York Times, Forbes, exactly.
Yeah,
you have been more than convinced.
And so, we're extremely brand focused as well.
Yeah.
But from a twofold standpoint, right? On one end, yes, of course, we want to build our brand and get the word out and continue doing well. But, our messaging is all about the region, right? It's all about saying to people that, listen, what you have been told about this region leaves a lot to be desired. And we are showcasing that. The other things that are...
One thing I would ask is that what you're also doing, which is that you're raising the standard as well. Not only the standard for conferences, but also the caliber of techno entrepreneurs. Meaning that be world class. You know what I mean? Produce a product, produce a service that is relevant, that somebody is solving a actual migraine. Don't come and open a double store or open some whatever and figure that you're relevant. Step out of your box, get uncomfortable, and be an entrepreneur, an investor, like who you're bringing to the table in Tech Beach will want to invest in you.
Yes. So that is definitely the other thing that we are working to do, is to not only showcase the best in the region, but to shift the mindsets, right? So in the Caribbean, just like the rest of the world, to be honest with you, one thing people have to understand is that there are very few people in the world that are building, mind-blowing enterprises, right?
Yeah.
So not to discount anyone's dreams or desires or anything like that. But we also have to get away from this idea sometimes that the Caribbean, all Caribbean people are the problem and not doing X and whatever. The average American, the average Canadian, the average UK person, their mindset is, the same, build a simple business or go to work 9 to 5, right?
Correct.
What we are trying to do is shift mindsets and get people understanding that way more is possible. But the most important thing then being that you are in the room with a group of people who want to help you to see those things come true. And as you pointed out as well, we are very curated and careful in terms of our brand, in the sense that we are working to identify the best of the best, right? We are looking for people who are positioning themselves to be global success stories.
Absolutely.
Coming from this region. And so, it is a very careful process in terms of working to identify the players in the market who are most poised to achieve achieve their overall visions and goals, right?
Correct. And and you identify too, because you're so purposeful, so driven, so focused. When you attend, again, from my own experience, is that it also propels you to even want more. Yes. And the post community, the digital, the after that, it also supports the ecosystem, is an offline and online ecosystem. So I would say that it is worth your while to attend. Buy a damn ticket. And also, where is it being held in the hotel again in Jamaica?
So in Jamaica this year, we are at the Iberostar Resort, which is a large all-inclusive resort in Jamaica. I know from last year's experience, there are a lot of people in Trinidad who might not be fully familiar with how this all works, right?
Tell them.
The reality of this is, for example, even Kyle, when Kyle showed up to our resort last year, Kyle looked at me and was like, oh, wow, yo, I'm just understanding what you've been telling me.
Yeah.
Because when you are in a place where you literally just walk into every restaurant, eat what you want, drink what you want, you can be sipping champagne all day while listening to our conference. And, that is one of the biggest values that I think Tech Beach offers, is that what we have done is we're taking the infrastructure that already exists in the Caribbean in terms of these all-inclusive resorts, and we're kind of flipping them on their head, and we're utilizing them to a higher purpose. So we're saying, come, stay in this setting where you are amongst your family, and any conversation you want to have can be held in a very comfortable setting with these people that are going to be around. You know, you can easily grab coffee, you can grab dinner, breakfast, lunch, whatever you want to do.
Put
You
on
can
10
have
pounds.
exactly. You can have a late night, you know, conversation with somebody at 2 a.m. and still have, you know, food and beverage at your disposal. Which is not what you find when you enter large metropolitans. And that's actually how we sell to some of our global players as well. You know, we're saying, listen, if I go to New York tomorrow for a conference, there's a simple reality, Melissa. I know people at Google, I know people at LinkedIn, I know people at various places. There are a significant amount of distractions around that. I have seen this when I travel to these places for conferences. It makes you, you know, it makes the experience significantly less immersive. Because what happens is, exactly, it's way too noisy, because I can go and have all of these meetings all over the place and, you know, create value beyond just being in this conference. The difference with Tech Beach is there are no distractions. The biggest distraction you have is the beach, right? So if you choose to go and sit down on the beach all day, that's really your decision. But very likely you would choose to do that with somebody else within the conference that you have met and, you know, gotten an affinity to. And, you know, I would say point proven in the sense of our other business partner, Finn. I met Finn in Geneva, Switzerland at the World Economic Forum in a very captured kind of setting. And what basically happened, the way that Tech Beach kind of got its legs, was that in talking to Finn, we ended up spending most of the time just hanging around each other, right? And a small group of people. So every day we'd get on the bus together, we'd have lunch together, and it was about 3 or 5 of us. But Finn and I would just always speak, and he was telling me about his involvement in another community called Startup Grind. I told him about the work I was doing with the destination experience and such like that. And I said to him, you know, I've had this idea that I've kind of been sitting on with this Tech Beach retreat thing. And his response to me was, let's do it. Let's do it, mate, you know? And then I said to him, yo, if we're going to do it, I have one person I need to call. And that was Kyle. And we just went from there. And, you know, we built this where between you and I, or well, between you, I, and all these people, Kyle and Finn never met until Tech Beach was happening. But by then, they already felt like there was a brotherhood. Exactly, because we did Skype calls every week. Every Friday we did Skype calls to build this thing. And so, you know, we are living in a new world, and that is what Tech Beach is working to expose. We're living in a world where people can build on opportunities in a much different way than our parents' generation would have.
Absolutely.
One of the interesting topics that I think people are going to find with Tech Beach is that we're going to be having some serious discussions around cryptocurrencies and initial coin offerings and such like that. And what I've been saying to a lot of people in the Caribbean lately, Melissa, is that we are now living in an age where the systems of venture and angel investing are getting bypassed, right?
They are.
But we live in a region that has not yet even adapted
to that,
those kinds of financing systems, right?
Correct, yeah.
So what you are going to see in the Caribbean, and I promise you this,
is that leapfrog? You think doing a leapfrog into
you're gonna, well, the hope is that you will see some level of leapfrog. I am now saying to people, you know, a lot of these programs that are designed to assist entrepreneurs and such like that in the region, which in many cases often their biggest kind of blockade is that they wish not to give, or they do not give entrepreneurs access to capital or markets, right? And so I've been saying to a lot of these, you know, enablers and
I call them gatekeepers, to be honest.
Well, the factuality is they're well-intentioned individuals and organizations. It's just, I do think there's a disconnect and misunderstanding as to what entrepreneurship is and what people need in many cases.
Maybe.
And so what I've been saying to them lately is, you know, because I get calls sometimes like, Kirk, what is it that the entrepreneurs are looking for? And I'm saying to them, entrepreneurs need 2 things. They need capital, right? And they need access to markets. Outside of that, they don't need much more, right? All the trainings, all of this, all of that, I mean, those things are wonderful, but you can't train me to do something that I then don't have access to the resources to do. Correct. Right? And so the big point that I'm making there is, what I've been saying to them lately is, listen, just to let you know, the money that you are unwilling to give, there are a group of entrepreneurs now in the Caribbean who are managing to find it through cryptocurrencies. Because what they've been doing is, because of our good friend Gabriel Abed especially,
Of course,
right?
of course.
More and more people are understanding this cryptocurrency space and whatever, and they're enthused about it. And so they're going out and they're putting their money there.
Yep.
And they may not have a lot of money, but guess what?
The return's so good though.
Exactly. If you put $1,000 in Bitcoin in the beginning of this year, you would now be very close to $5,000. It's a simple reality.
Simple math there.
Starting a small business increasingly takes less capital, right? So if I bought 2 Bitcoin and I now have 10K, or I bought 4 Bitcoin and I now have 20K, right? I can do things that I otherwise would not have been able to do.
Yep.
But then there's this emerging thing now, the initial coin offering, which is essentially the equivalent of an IPO, but with a cryptocurrency backing. And we are going to be having a panel focused on that. One of the people that we expect to be participating in that panel is someone who raised $800,000, the equivalent of $800,000 through an initial coin offering. Here's a reality though. Because of the change in price of that cryptocurrency that they raised the money
fluctuates, yeah?
through, right? It grew exponentially.
It grew.
So their 800,000 increased to 40 million US dollars in value.
Jesus Christ.
This is without them ever actually doing business.
Yeah, so,
right?
Okay, because of the value, okay, I understand. Oh, shit,
yes.
That is crazy, man.
So
you
look at things like that, right? And the question you then ask is, they have already provided returns to their investors well beyond what any investor could reasonably want, right? Usually investors have this conversation about 5x returns.
Yeah.
This is significantly more than 5x, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And so, entrepreneurs are now being positioned more and more to be able to do things, almost self-fund. This is the democracy of funding.
It is.
Right?
So when you democratize this process of funding, right, which you just basically explained, how can what are the barriers to entry for a Caribbean entrepreneur who has, we're assuming, of course, product is on point and they're ready to scale. What are the steps that they have to do literally? Well,
here's what. That is what we're going to discuss at
Okay, good.
But this is what I'll say to you. The biggest thing that Caribbean entrepreneurs face as a challenge and are missing is simply network, right? Everything is built on relationships.
Absolutely.
I'll say this, and I always say it to people in Jamaica. In Jamaica, we have a thing where people say, links run Jamaica. And that essentially means that, in order for you to get somewhere, you have to know people. But people say it as if it's a bad thing. And the reality is you can change the word links and just say relationships. Relationships run the world.
Absolutely.
So I always say to people, links run the world. And so what we are really trying to do with Tech Beach and these other platforms is essentially give people links, right? Because for you to end up in, certain publications and for you to raise capital and do this and do that, brains is one thing, and you do have to be smart and, well informed around what you're trying to create and everything like that. But the most brilliant people in the world are not necessarily the ones who are most successful. The most connected people in the world are the ones who become the most successful. And so you have some extremely successful people in the Caribbean who are simply just very well connected within Trinidad or very well connected within Jamaica. And so yes, they get the government contracts and they get the this and the banks want to work with them and whatever. Because at the end of the day, if I know I can trust you, then why would I bid my work out to someone else? Why would I give things out to, you know what I mean?
So
and if you're
basically what you're saying is your network is equal to your
net worth.
Yeah.
And so that is really what Tech Beach is all about. So when you talk about someone ICOing, I mean, I'm in these various groups and such like that. I see how it unfolds. It is basically a guy going into a WhatsApp group and saying, hey, we are having an ICO. Would love for you all to participate.
Boom.
Right? And boom. And I mean, I don't want to make it sound any easier than it is.
But that's the reality though.
That's a big part of the reality. Clearly, they have to have something that you want to buy into.
Of course. But the thing about it is that even to get into that WhatsApp group, That is the trick too. Not the trick,
Yes.
but that takes time. It takes relationship building, it takes trust, it takes integrity.
Yes.
Blah,
Yes.
blah, 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 blah.
And so that's the funny thing. Recently, for one of those WhatsApp groups, I said to one of the administrators, I said, yo, I need to get X into the group, right? Which is another Jamaican entrepreneur.
Right.
And they were like, Kirk, you know, we're down to right now, we're not really letting in anybody unless X, Y, and Z and whatever, because the group only had space for like 10 people left.
Yeah.
Well, so I said to them, well, it's for, you know, this person, another young Jamaican entrepreneur.
Right.
They're like, oh, hell yeah. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, man. Here's the link. Right? Now, again, that is really what.
Because you vetted him. That's the only reason why. You see that?
Well, no.
No, you're not?
I would say because he is then well known as well.
Oh, he is.
Right?
Okay, right. Okay.
So they knew the name, they knew the person, and they were like, oh, crap.
Okay,
yeah,
of course. Right.
You know, this guy is more than welcome. And so you look at things like that, and I mean, the reason they know about each other, not to plug again, but really and truly, the reason they know each other is because of Tech Beach. Right?
I see.
So having met him in Tech Beach, he basically was like, oh yeah, for sure. Definitely one of the people that we'd want in the group. So, but what it really does come down to, again, is just networks. That's a simple reality.
It is true. It is true. And as we wrap up here, based on your experience, I mean, you're relatively a young man, you know what I mean? You just happen to be relatively, I mean, both of us the same age, don't be saying that, you know. I probably am older, but anyway, get to the point, is this. Despite age, experience gained over, what are your two top lessons you're going to share with the up-and-comings that
it's funny you asked that. I'll probably have to think about the second one, but the first one, I made a post on Facebook today where I said, you know, one of the greatest lessons you end up learning in life is that they cannot stop you. And there is whatever impediment you might want to see it as, right? But there's a simple reality. When you are pursuing your entrepreneurial vision and dreams, there will always be people who do not fully understand it, do not see why you're doing it, and don't get your purpose. But one of the things that you start to learn is that it doesn't matter how many people tell you no, there will always be people who will end up saying yes. And what that I think does to you over time is that you just start to realize that disappointments are disappointments. You take them as they come and you move right forward and just keep building what you're building. Because again, nobody can in full stop you from doing what you need to do.
Absolutely.
Right? So that for sure is one of the biggest lessons I would share that I have learned. The other thing is, I'll give an anecdote because I think it's the best way for me to do it. I'm a relationship person. And the reason is that years ago when I was an architect, and one of the reasons that I don't necessarily practice architecture, despite the fact that I did have relative success in the space and whatever, is that I graduated in the height of the recession, right? And if you think, and I graduated in the US and all this kind of stuff, and if people think the recession was bad, then you have to imagine that construction being the most capital intensive sector in the world was the hardest hit of any, right? And so there were no jobs in the architecture space during the recession.
Right.
One of the things that I did during the recession was that I went to a large architecture convening. In fact, it's probably the largest in the world, definitely the largest in the US.
All right.
At the time, it was happening on South Beach. I was living there, and so it was just a walk up the street, and I decided to go. While the conference was happening, however, I stepped away and I went and met with a gentleman who's a very, very successful real estate developer in the US.
Okay.
And while I was sitting with him, you know, I told him of the challenging market and whatever, which of course he knew. And said to him, you know, I was just participating in this conference, whatever. And I asked him, you know, are you going to the conference? And he said, no. And I said, why not? And he said, well, to be honest, it just was not really sold to me, and I just don't have the interest to go. And so one of my big takeaways was, this was a conference filled with 20,000 people, right? The large majority are architects. On the other end, a significant amount of them are suppliers, right? So people trying to sell their products that architects could be using and whatever, and selling to their clients and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Biggest missing element in that room, however, was the actual client. There were not any large real estate developers in the room. So when I was talking to him, like my big takeaway, even when I went back to the conference, because all I was meeting upon were, you know, these people that were supposed to be very successful architects, basically saying to me, you know, Kirk, I don't envy you as a young architect now trying to get into the business because it's challenging as hell. We don't have any work. I don't have any work to give you, all this stuff. And so my takeaway was, but why isn't the client in the room? And that's why one of the reasons you'll see that our brands like Tech Beach and Destination Experience are so diverse, because I've gotten an understanding that the world is actually very multidimensional, and far too often we focus in very specifically on these areas, but we misunderstand the fact that in order for anything to be successful, in our increasingly multidimensional world, there are a lot of pieces that come together in the puzzle. So you might be a tech business, or you may not be a tech business, but guess what? Tech is going to impact your business in many, many ways. So the other big takeaway, or the big lesson that I'd give from having that meeting with that gentleman, however, is he kind of said to me, so what is it that you're doing? And I said, well, you know, I'm just networking and trying to figure my way out of this situation.
Yeah.
And you know, it seems like the thing to do because everybody's telling me I'm doing the right thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he said to me, you know, Kurt, that's great. And networking is a valuable thing. But just keep in mind one key thought. It's not really about networking. It's all about access. And so his point was basically, you can walk around that room with these 20,000 people and you can get every single person's business card. But if none of them respond to your emails or your phone calls, then what was the point?
No point.
And so we focus a lot on the quantity when we go into these spaces, forgetting that what you're really looking for is a certain level of value to be created. Mm-hmm. And so it's not really about quantity. It's more, you know, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. Mm-hmm. And the takeaway with that lesson is it's all about access, which again is what we are working to deliver. It's what I have designed my life around, which is that I want to be in a position where I can get to just about anybody I need to in a meaningful way. And so the various linkages that are necessary to do so are what I've been working to identify. And we deliver a lot of that through Tech Beach and the Destination Experience and these various offerings that we have. But, you know, understanding that value is extremely significant, because if, you know, what I usually say to people is, when a young entrepreneur from the Caribbean picks up the phone, if they can even, or they send an email to a Silicon Valley-based venture capital firm, and they say, you know, I'm looking to do X, Y, and Z and whatever. It doesn't matter how global their idea might be. A lot of the times the response they'll get is, we don't focus on that market. The reason they get that response is they don't have access. Mm-hmm. Right?
Pretty much.
So even with what we do, we get those responses sometimes when we haven't met the person and are not in a position to really sell them. And so we get the response. We don't focus on the Caribbean. You know, the conference sounds great, but unfortunately it won't bring any value to our business, and therefore we won't be there.
Yeah, yeah.
But when we are able to encounter these folks and build the bridge between those gaps, then you see the results.
That's where the magic happens.
Exactly. And so access is everything. And so a lot of things matter in that, right? You have to be very conscious of your brand. You have to be very conscious of the things you're doing on social media, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, you just have to be consciously out there trying to build access.
Yeah, pretty much. So that was definitely some sound advice there. Hope to God everybody takes it in, because let me tell you, a lot of times we never, when I was growing up, I never had mentors. You know, you were fighting to get this, and now we have so much access to what you're saying, along with so many other people we interviewing on the Mindset Show. So tell me.
So can I give you one other nugget then, since you mentioned that? I struggled with the same thing, right? Mm-hmm. With mentorship. And now I have quite a few people who I can call mentors or advisors or whatever. And these are big power players, you know, in the US and in Jamaica and stuff like that. We talk here and there, or very often, depending on who they are. But one of the things I learned is that mentorship is not a program.
You're right.
And so one of the things that we do is we set out to find these people who are supposed to be, you know, somewhat altruistic in their willingness to give us their time and blah, blah, blah. In many cases with nothing in return.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I've learned is that, for me at least, mentorship has become essentially an exchange and opportunity, right? These people are my mentors because there is something that they want from me and there's something that I want from them. And it is not just this thing where they're just casting their divine wisdom, which they do, and they're willing to, you know, they definitely probably get less from me than I get from them initially.
Or so you think.
Or so I may think. But the ultimate outcome is that they're looking for something.
Absolutely.
And that is the basis of which our relationship has been built.
And that's a healthy relationship. It's sustainable.
And it's a very healthy relationship. And I have no problem with it, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I would share with all entrepreneurs, because I've gone down that road. I used to wonder, you know, why is it that I don't have these mentors in my life and whatever. And just increasingly learn that, you know, it's not really about this guy who just sees this kid and decides that he's going to give him the world for no reason. Or this lady, right? Whichever one.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It really is about people
who you meet along the way. You meet along the way and it just happens.
And being able to exchange value.
Absolutely.
Right? And so that is one of the key things that I think is important for people to start to understand.
Correct. It's not a one-way street. It's two ways, as you mentioned. You have to be able to add something. Just be yourself. Being yourself authentically. It's adding. It's being somebody will find you interested. Don't pretend, because you see pretending.
Exactly.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Nobody can stand that. Anywho, so Kirk, I thank you for taking the time today to be on the Mindset Show. And you know what? We mentioned mindset today so much because it is the crux of so much. It really is the foundation for growth, for sustainability, you know? So thanks for taking the time. We appreciate it very, very much. And I would see you in Jamaica in a couple months' time.
November 30th to December 2nd. In Montego Bay, Jamaica. Our website is techbeach.net, and looking forward to everybody coming and participating. You know, it's going to be a wonderful time. We have definitely upped the ante on what participation is going to look like this year versus even last year, and last year was very successful. But you know, we have some people coming to the table this year who are, you know, just even more impressive. And the goal for us is that the community just becomes increasingly impressive and everybody just gets to stick around for the ride, and in themselves become, you know, better and better and better at what they do. So
absolutely. So get your tickets, guys, and yeah, we'll be in touch.